All right. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on which time zone you're joining us from. And welcome to our investors and their guests as we share our update on our Missouri mobile home community portfolio. We're excited to share a lot of new things with you. And so after our recent investor update on pushing distributions out a few months, we received a few questions as to the reasons why. So we wanted to share a lot of the exciting updates we're working on and we're planning on in the future. Just paint, paint a clear picture of how we've been deploying the capital you've entrusted us with to create the great returns that we're expecting for all investors and partners. So with that, Allie is our awesome executive assistant, and she's going to be helping on the question and answer portion. So you should see that option. So as we're going through, go ahead and going through any of the slides, go ahead and put questions into that feature. She'll let us know. Most of them we'll try to answer at the end, but there may be some that we can answer in the moment. And just make sure that you're muted as well. And then, yeah, most of those will be answered at the very end. Okay. And introducing our hosts for tonight, Brett and I are the co-founders of Suncrest Capital. Allie, as I mentioned, our executive assistant, investor relations. Matt Hall, partner that specializes in underwriting. He's our Excel guru. Then Karthik and Brendan are both on here. They've been key and instrumental in majority of the project that we have going on in the Missouri parks right now. And then you do want to stay on till the very end of the presentation. We have some exciting new opportunities coming up that you guys will actually be the very first ones to hear about. So we're excited to share that. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to talk about two newer acquisitions, Fairfield and Evergreen, and why we're excited about those projects and how they're going to really add to the overall portfolio and returns. Take a look at all of those capital projects that we've been working on, all of the infrastructure pieces, home updates, and then financial performance, which I think you'll all be very excited about.
Thanks, Ryan. So heading into acquisitions, we've been sending out regular newsletters about every month. That's our expectation going forward, is to have a monthly newsletter for you to share the latest and greatest. So hopefully none of this comes as a surprise, but just kind of a quick summary. We closed on Cedar Lane and Suburban Acres August 31st, and then a couple weeks later we closed on Rolling Meadows. And then we since have found two off-market deals that we are acquiring as part of this portfolio, Evergreen and Fairfield. And these are the tentative closing dates for both of those. And I will kind of go into a little more detail as we go, but just to completely clarify, because we've had some questions, these are part of the same portfolio. So all of our investors will have ownership, the same percentage of ownership in these as you have in the other properties. So this is sort of where they are in the Springfield area. If you remember when we first presented the portfolio back in the summer, we used the same diagram. So really the only change is we've added Evergreen here. Fairfield has been on our sites the whole time. And again, I'll get into a little bit more of the detail on how we're progressing with Fairfield and why we still haven't closed on it. That's actually been a strategic decision to postpone the closing. But we've got Suburban Acres, Cedar Lane, Rolling Meadows. We'll have detailed updates for you today for all three of those. And then Evergreen is the brand new one. One of my favorite things about Evergreen is it's 6 minutes west of Cedar Lane, putting it kind of in between Cedar Lane and Suburban Acres. So easily we can have the same manager manage all four of these parks. Huge savings and economies of scale by doing it that way. And then we just have a second manager down here in Branson at honestly our nicest park. Again, we'll have some more details on that. So Fairfield, so we signed the contract to buy Fairfield in August, and we, during the due diligence phase, learned very quickly that there were some zoning issues with it. So without getting into too much detail, it is zoned for mobile home parks, but there were some changes since it was created that changed the code and the requirements for what's actually in this park. And simultaneously, the seller, or the current owner, kind of over the last few years got sick of owning a mobile home park and let residents move out, and honestly seem to have encouraged the residents to move out. So it's become more or less vacant. So of the 32 lots that are there, only 3 of them have people on them. And so because of that, we now have to follow the new city code, even though technically the park was created before the code existed. So that's made it a lot more challenging, and it's made it so that we've stretched out the closing as much as possible to try to get as much of that pre-development work, permitting, everything in place before we actually close, so that we're not paying interest on loans or anything like that and not being able to make progress. So effectively, by pushing this till March for the closing, we were able to secure a little over 6 months of interest-free financing from the seller, in another way to think about it. So some of the things we need to take care of at Fairfield include, we're going through a full redevelopment plan with the civil engineering firm. We're working on the roads. We've got to do some road extensions. Oops, sorry. We've got to do some road extensions, as you can see up here, to meet fire code. We've got to add some fire hydrants and some sidewalks. So those are kind of the main things we have to do, and then we can start bringing in homes. One of the things we really like about this park is it's in a secluded, nice single-family home neighborhood. So it's almost like part of a single-family home neighborhood. So really nice area where normally a mobile home park is kind of often an industrial area or out of the way. This is like right in the middle of that nicer area. Evergreen recently came to us from some wholesalers that we know. So essentially what this means is we have a network of people that do cold calls and try to find people that aren't advertising their parks for sale, but maybe they're interested. And this group found it for us and brought it to us, and you know, it makes a lot of sense for us because again, it's 6 minutes from Cedar Lane, so it's right there. After we stabilize Evergreen, it's got almost $400,000 in intrinsic value right after stabilization. We'll hold on to it along with the rest of the portfolio. The plan is to hold it for the full 10-year period. After 5 years of the initial purchases, we're going to do a mass cash out refinance for the whole portfolio. So we will capture this actual value within the next few years, but this value will only continue to grow as we implement things like water bill backs, sub-meters, rent increases, obviously each month. The capitalization rate compresses over time as we have more and more units in here too. So all of that's gonna just continue to grow. But again, 380K, really we should have that equity in there just within the first few months of ownership because of the changes we'll make right away. When we talk about cap rate compression, in our last webinar, we sort of talked a little bit about how capitalization rates work with values, but the short version of it is if you take your net operating income and divide it by a capitalization rate, it's just a percentage that is sort of determined by the quality of the property, location of the property. So you take net operating income divided by capitalization rate, you get your value. So when we talk about the word compression, that means that the capitalization rate is going to come down. So for example, if you buy something at a 7% versus buying something at a 5% cap rate, the 5% cap rate is going to be a lot more expensive than a 7% cap rate. So when we take parks that are individual and you buy just a park at like 35 pads, for example, that might trade for a 7% cap rate. But once you package it all into a portfolio, people want portfolios, they want larger pad counts, they want things that are stabilized and easy to manage. So they're willing to pay a lower capitalization rate. So that's the strategy in packaging all these parks together, is that we can then resell them at a much better capitalization rate than we would otherwise on their own. Again, I mentioned this before, we have great economies of scale by packaging these parks together. This is super close to our other parks, so it makes perfect sense to have the same property manager on them. We also, honestly, out of all of our properties, and now we're at 12 that we own, and we've got another 8 under contract. And out of all of them, this portfolio has the best contractors. We have an amazing general contractor in the area that just has great crews that he works with. They give us discounts because they do all of the work. And honestly, I always try to pay them within 48 hours, which they're happy about. So we're just really great contractors in the area. So we'll just be able to continue taking advantage of that here. And then there's some quick upsides on this park. So utility bill backs immediately once we do that, that's an extra $15,000 in revenue each year. And then rent increases, they're currently at $230. I don't know that we'll jump right to 300. That's a pretty big increase for us. But when we get them to 300, which is the market rent, that's another $26,000 increase just off rent. So that's really without us doing much capital improvements at all. This park, as you can see from the pictures, it does need some road work, and then it needs some of the older homes need to be painted. And that's essentially our entire business plan here. Fix the roads, fix the homes, increase the rents, utility bill backs. So relatively easy lift. This is sort of a side-by-side comparison of Fairfield and Evergreen. I wanted to show this side-by-side because they're really similar. They're both 32 units. They're both closing about a month apart. The acquisition prices are pretty different though. So we've got a really great acquisition price on Fairfield, but it also needs a lot more work. So we've got a larger adjusted price on Fairfield after you add in the capital budget, but subtract, if you remember, Fairfield actually has a single family home that we're going to rehab and then sell off. So it'll not be part of the park anymore, but that'll reduce our cost basis. So adjusted going in is 625 when you add all of that up and subtract the single family home sale, but really nice intrinsic value. Later on tonight, I've got a slide that actually compares each of the parks, shows our purchase price, the capital investment, and then our equity that's in them. So you'll see kind of a side-by-side across all of these. And off to Matt to talk to us about capital project review.
Okay, hello everybody. I guess, can you go to the next slide?
Oh, sorry, yep.
Yeah. So when we met with you originally, we showed this slide and detailed some of the capital projects and actions that we kind of intended to take once we got into the parks. What we've done here is we've updated to show you how we're tracking. The green dots with the checks are the actions and projects that we've completed. The green dots are on track, and the yellow dots indicate some items that we still need to start. When we spoke last time, one of our key focuses were turning our D-class properties into B+ properties. Those are kind of listed on the right-hand side of the screen. And I remember that Brett took a little time to describe that nomenclature for D-class and for the classes of properties. Cedar Lane and Suburban Acres are our D properties. So I'd say most of the effort has really been spent on working in these particular communities. Brett and Brendan are going to talk through some of the improvements in detail just after I finish here with the overview. As an overview, we've completed removing the troubled tenants. We had a bunch of sex offenders in the park, and they are now gone. We're happy to say that. We've removed many of the dilapidated homes out of the parks. We're continuing on rehabbing homes that were worthy of rehab. We're painting the park-owned homes and tenant-owned homes. We haven't started any of the new landscaping or the small playgrounds, but that's really mainly due to the extent of work that we're doing in each of the parks. So I think that these are the types of issues that will ultimately be kind of the finishing touches that we take on after some of the major development that we're doing. We are on track to upgrade the Suburban Acres to the city water and sewer. We're also on track to upgrade the electrical infrastructure and upgrade the roads. On the left, you can see that we had postponed some projects that were associated with Fairfield. Brett mentioned earlier that the timeline for these projects were strategically pushed back. So that's why we haven't touched some of those Fairfield projects. However, we are meeting on our timelines with respect to Suburban Acres and Cedar Lanes. And, also mentioned over here is, talking about increase the lot rents. And I'm happy to report that we are going to be raising the lot rents on February 1st. We've been communicating with our residents about that. I guess finally, as far as Rolling Meadows goes, that's what is in purple towards the bottom. We have started on a couple projects, but many are on hold for the time being. You know, as Brett mentioned, Rolling Meadows is it's our nicest park, and really it's in the best condition. We've devoted most of our time to Suburban Acres and Cedar Lane. However, we are on track to upgrade the pool fencing and in terms of infilling homes there in Rolling Meadows. So I guess next, Brett is going to talk to you in a little bit more detail about the comprehensive work that we are doing at Suburban Acres.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Matt. So Suburban Acres, and we knew this going in, is our problem child, but it also has a ton of upside. So we were anxious to get started on transforming this one. So on the left, you can see we finished installing the new fence in the back of the community. We have ordered vinyl slats to come back here, which will make this look even nicer. We also, Brendan will talk about vinyl slats we're doing at the pool fencing in Rolling Meadows. It just kind of helped a little more with the privacy and ambiance. Another thing that I don't know that we really did a great job in our communications of explaining what was going on here, but we had a single family home that was at the front of the park, and it just sort of overshadowed the entire park. It took up at least a lot and a half, and the foundation was bad, everything. So we had a lot of fun watching this home get torn down. I think we even posted on like social media the video of it getting torn down if you want to go find that, because I thought it was entertaining. But what's crazy to me is this picture in the top right is what that area looks like without it. Like you can't even tell it was there. So it's amazing to me what things look like without, you know, something hideous in front of it. So we're excited about that. This is a pretty big undertaking to completely transform Suburban Acres. So Suburban Acres, we should have included a sign of the fence. The fence, or I'm sorry, the picture of the sign. The sign actually, it has the SU removed, so it looks like Bourbon Acres, and just the whole park has been just like, you know, it's had issues with it. I mean, the fact that we had to evict six sex offenders from this park can tell you a little bit about the reputation of this park. So what's been great about some of the transformation we're doing is we've actually had residents telling us they feel safer here than they ever have, and people that have lived here for 10 plus years. So really, that's one of those rewarding things that we get to do in this business, is to transform communities and help people feel safe and proud to live where they live. So let me kind of explain a little bit what you're seeing here. So this is a survey of Suburban Acres, and the black drawings are actually the homes that are already there. The green lines represent where we'll be moving them to. So the reason we're moving the homes is you can see some of these black ones are very skiwampus and just not uniform, but they're also taking up multiple lots. So currently it has 41 lots in Suburban Acres. By removing the single family home, that's this black drawing. By removing the single family home, rearranging homes, removing other old homes, we're going to be able to fit 43, maybe even 45 homes here. So that already gives us extra equity by increasing the lot count. Some of the work we're doing is we're excavating. We actually have 2 excavation lines on either side so that we can do new water and sewer connections. So we'll be replacing the dilapidated septic system with direct connection to city sewer. We'll also be upgrading all the electric and then road improvements. So this will look like a completely different community when we're done with it. As I was talking before about capitalization rates, the appearance of a park has everything to do with the capitalization rate. So this will be a huge improvement. Not only the fact that residents will want to live here, we'll be able to have better occupancy, better rents, but also the capitalization comes down. The capitalization rate comes down. So all in all, it's well worth it. And then I'm going to have Brendan talk to us about Cedar Lane.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing at the other 2 parks. Cedar Lane, you know, wasn't exactly a pretty park like Suburban Acres, but not nearly as much work as will need to be done at Suburban Acres. We started just like over at Suburban Acres with a lot of cleanup. We did a ton of tree work, cutting down trees that were getting ready to fall on homes, cleaning it up really good. And then we instituted a paint program. We got all of the park-owned homes painted. We also got shutters on them. So as you can see here, you got the pre-painted homes and the painted homes. They look really good now. We have been struggling a little bit when it comes to getting the tenant-owned homes painted. That's only because we really can't force these people to paint their homes. All we can really do is ask them. And our solutions so far have been, the rest of the homes look great. We actually have one person who was really, really excited to get their home painted. We painted it. They loved it. They paid for it. So it's been great. Now we're waiting for tax rebate season, and we're going to go around and again ask people if they want help getting their homes painted. Next step, if people still don't want it at that point, we're going to continue to improve these parks, and we're hoping that by improving and showing that this is a place that we want people to be proud to be in, folks will come around to have their homes painted. We really don't want to have to go to the point of instituting fines or anything like that for not having homes in the condition that we expect them in. I'm fairly confident that people will come around, especially as more and more start to. Another thing that Ryan will talk about, but infill, we tore out any homes that were dilapidated, something we couldn't fix up. We tore those out. We brought in 4 new homes over at Cedar Lane. They're ready for install. And yeah, things have been going strong there. So Brett, would you go to the next one?
Yep. I'm just gonna flash the deck real quick.
Rolling Meadows. So, yep, as you all know, Suburban Acres is our problem child. Rolling Meadows is definitely the, A student. We're really glad to have Rolling Meadows, but still a good bit of work when it comes to infill there. We're gonna pretty it up a little bit more too, like that pool there. We're gonna add vinyl fencing, just like we're doing over at Suburban Acres. Make this someplace that people are even more proud to be in. Brett, next slide. And we have a couple things that we've already started doing over here. The clubhouse renovation is something that we kind of tossed back and forth for a little bit, just trying to better understand how this could best serve the community. And we decided that instead of just making it available to residents of Rolling Meadows, we're going to make it something that the entire, Taney County community can enjoy. So we're going to, as you can see, that's how it looks right now on the left. We're gonna turn it into the image on the right. And we're also gonna add laundry and vending machines so that the RVs have a place to do their laundry and people can buy snacks if they want. But we're really excited that this can be another income generation for the park. And then the RV site prep, that's something that we've started fairly recently. We wanted to get these sites, ready for mobile homes, but we don't have a couple of dozen mobile homes to put on there tomorrow. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these sites prepped. It's minimal added expense to make it, usable by an RV. So we're going to get them prepped for RVs. We're going to start marketing it for RVs to come in and stay here, and hoping that that will boost income a little bit more. And we'll go to the next slide now, Brett. And yeah, we've shown this map before. It gives a good idea of what's going on in the park, and we sort of have like 3 or 4 stages of site development. We have the sites that already exist but are vacant. Some of them are really steeply graded, others maybe don't have the proper utilities set up. Those are the sites that are in blue. Those are a lot of them there's a lot of them that are vacant. That's where we're putting these gravel pads and getting them ready for RVs. And we think that this will, one, be great because it'll be prepped for mobile homes as soon as mobile homes are ready to come in. And 2, it sort of tests out this RV strategy, right, to see what the demand is there. If we have strong demand for RVs, even as we start replacing those spots with mobile homes, we have other land that we can develop as specifically RV spaces. One area that we're thinking about is over by the pool. And then, of course, we have other development stages too. We have the 8 lots over on the side there that we will develop as soon as we can. Right now, we're focusing on the lots that are already vacant. And then our, long-term development strategy is that big empty space over on the top right corner. But yeah, right now it's Rolling Meadows is rolling, and we are getting it ready to generate further income.
Good job on that pun. Okay, so we're going to hand off to Ryan now to talk about homes.
All right, give you an idea for our home numbers in the communities, and there's a nice before and after of the paint program that Brendan was describing. This was our one tenant-owned home that chose to partake, and we pay half of the fee, and they pay the other half. So 185 homes total, occupied 122. We have 47 vacant lots, and then 16 vacant homes. So calculating kind of a rough estimate of filling those lots and getting those vacant homes, get those finished, remodeled, and sold off is roughly like $2 million in value to the portfolio once they're filled up, once we talk about cap rate compression and value. Okay, next. So as I said, 122 homes occupied, and we've purchased 9 homes total. So there's a picture of one of the homes that we've moved into Cedar Lane. So 4 have been moved in, as Brendan was saying, and the rest will be moved in by Q1. End of Q1 is our goal for the others to be moved in. End of year goal, 137 occupied. I believe our underwriting when we first did the deal was 11 total homes added to the community. So we're looking to exceed that, speed that up. And picture in the bottom right, we've demolished 7 homes and that single family home to make room for new. So we're excited for that opportunity. Okay. So go by end of year, purchase and move in 15 new to us homes. So that's a mix of new homes. So like we will order some brand new homes, but also we will continue sourcing quality used homes to bring into the parks. And then 41 park-owned homes that we currently own are like straight rentals, right? Or they might be a few leased to own, but a lot of rentals. So we're working hard to get those converted over to financed homes so that we can recoup the value of those homes and recycle that capital to purchase even more homes. Our toter update, I know we provide updates like every time, and it is getting closer. It's been quite the process. And so we are expecting here within the next week to week and a half that we will have our toter actually moving, and our goal is to have 15 plus homes between our Missouri and Iowa portfolios moved into our communities just 15 for Missouri by the end of Q4. Iowa has its own goals. Right.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in that Q&A section, and we'll answer them. So Matt's going to kick us off with this financial review.
Okay, thanks, Brett. So here are some of the key indicators, key performance indicators that we're using to track the portfolio. This is a glance at some of the basic measures. We're looking at our gross revenue, total expenses, net operating income, and physical occupancy. In this table, we compared our year 1 projection from the original underwriting that we shared with you the last time we presented on this portfolio, the actuals from Q4 of 2021, and the annualized actuals, which is really simply the Q4 actuals multiplied by 4. I guess the first initial takeaway from this is that our annual gross revenue is above what we had originally projected, but also our annualized total expenses are above what we had originally projected, and our NOI is below what we had originally projected. However, there's a couple points that I'd like to add. For the original projection, I just want to remind everyone, remind all of you that these projections come from this combined underwriting effort from both Brett and me. Our normal process when evaluating deals is for both of us to underwrite these deals separately, make our assumptions, check our work against one another. And we still feel really good about these projections. For the Q4 actuals and the annualized actuals, I have some results that are in brackets for the expenses and the NOI. The numbers not in brackets are pulled directly from our books. However, we recognize that the actual expense is abnormally high, and this is because of some one-time payments that we've made. These are for the cost segregation study, a number of bad write-offs that we, bad debt write-offs, and also some hotels that we had done for some contractors. All of these payments that we had to do with taking over the property and trying to ramp it up quickly. These will not be normal operating expenses moving forward. I guess not to mention, we also paid our taxes in the fourth quarter, and this payment's only made twice a year. So this is kind of inflating the expenses that we have for that quarter and annualized. So that being said, if we take out these one-time expenses of about $12,000, our Q4 actual expenses and the resulting annualized and the annualized actuals are realistically, slightly lower. And these are the numbers that we had put in brackets. So it's about $69,000 for the Q4 actuals and about $276,000 for the annualized actuals. With these different expense amounts, we're seeing that our NOI from the annualized actuals is about $173,000. And we all feel extremely confident that we're going to meet or exceed this NOI for the portfolio, this NOI of about 173,000. Taking a look at the physical occupancy, we had projected 58% occupancy when we were doing the underwriting process. We're currently at 66% occupancy. Ryan kind of touched on that. So why is this the case? We did not have to remove as many people as we projected. We had stronger retention than we had really conservatively underwritten. So it's a good thing. And in fact, we've even received some good feedback from our residents that they kind of like the direction that we're moving in. So people who are in the park aren't leaving, and we expected more to leave after we took it on. And as I mentioned before, we were able to keep our projections while we're still able to remove these sex offenders, and I'd say some other folks that were partaking in unlawful activities that really didn't suit the culture of the communities that we were trying to create. So pleased that we were able to keep the occupancy where it was. And as I mentioned earlier about raising the rents, I guess another good bit of news about the occupancy is, we're raising the rents February 1st, the lot rents for Suburban Acres, Cedar Lane, and Rolling Meadows. And those rent increases are obviously not seen in these financial KPIs that I'm putting up, that we have on the screen here. And we've also communicated these increases to our community members several weeks ago, and we haven't lost anyone else due to this expected increase. So the occupancy seems good. And now I'll pass it on to Brett to continue to talk about some of the financial performance.
Thanks a lot, Matt. And I'm actually just gonna really quickly, I want to echo a couple things Matt said because I think they're really important. So we had projected lower occupancy for the first year because of all the turnover. We knew we were going to kick people out. We knew we were going to be doing a lot of construction that may scare people away, and we knew we were going to be increasing rents that also may scare people away. And as Matt was saying, it hasn't been nearly as crazy as we thought it would be. So that's been great. But the other thing is on this $173,000 annualized NOI, again, like Matt said, all we did is we took this 43,000 and times it by 4, but that doesn't take into account any of the momentum we're building with the new RUBs we just implemented and the new rents. And I know I'm repeating what Matt said, but that's really exciting to me because we're already going to be beating projections without that momentum. So we should well exceed the projection. So pretty exciting. Okay, so then moving forward, I also want to talk about collections. So collections is a little funky with this chart. And the reason why is because, I mean, theoretically, you can't collect more than 100% of what you bill, right? But the way this percentage is calculated is if you take how much rent was due that month, and then you look at how much was actually collected, this is the percentage. So we closed again on Suburban Acres and Cedar Lane August 31st. So September 1st, we obviously billed out the rents as normal and only collected 80%. This is because we had a fair amount of people that, again, needed to be evicted, and we knew that going in. So after we got the evictions out, that automatically corrected a lot of the issue from collections. But then as people saw that we were serious about evictions and making sure people are actually paying on time and late fees, we got much better collection. So in November or December, we actually saw people paying back rents, which is why that percentage is above 100%. So time will tell on where this is. Our goal is about 90% for the next several months. We will definitely be shooting higher than that after we're done with our construction phase. So that's where we expect to hover, though, is about 90% collection. And again, we'll be continuing to enforce late fees and eviction. So this slide, actually my next two slides, I kind of put together just kind of show a state of the business, more or less, or state of where we're at, and also to try to explain, you know, I think back in December, I think it was, we had announced that we had decided to postpone our first distribution payment for investors, and I really just wanted to emphasize why we did that. I think normally when you do an investment and you're expecting to receive a distribution at some point and then it's postponed, the immediate expectation is that maybe there's some drowning or some concern or some financial performance, and that's not the case at all. So our financials are better than we expected. And really what it is we believe that the prudent decision for us right now, given the opportunities we've found since closing, is to reinvest the capital into the portfolio for now. And then we want to begin distributions as quickly as possible. So just explaining that real quick. So these are the 5 parks that we've been discussing. The teal blue line is our purchase price. So for example, Rolling Meadows, we bought it for $2.65 million. And then the dark blue is our capital budget. So this would include for Rolling Meadows, relatively light work here. It's mostly some fencing, some pool work. We had to do some work on the treatment plant, things like that. And then the orange is the stabilized value. So this is basically once we reach higher occupancy, we reach market rents, and assuming a 6% cap rate, this is the equity that's built in. And over time, we'll continue to increase the rents. We'll also be able to increase utility recaptures. We'll sell more homes. Lots of things will actually increase this number. This will just be the short-term equity once it's stabilized. Suburban Acres, again, you all know we have plenty of work ahead of us still, but that's all happening by this summer, so that'll be exciting. There's about $750,000 of equity once we're done, which is really exciting. And then Cedar Lane, I honestly had no idea when we bought Cedar Lane that this would be our easiest park and our fastest equity, but it's true. It needs relatively little work, and it has almost $800,000 in equity. So combined across this portfolio, once we acquire Fairfield and Evergreen, we're looking at $3.3 million in combined equity. And what's really great about that is with the leverage we've been able to get from Sullivan Bank in Springfield, Missouri. we only brought in $1.2 million of equity across us and across our investors. So just looking at what equity we brought into the combined equity that's in the portfolio, that's almost a 3x multiple already. And again, really, this won't be realized until we're finished stabilizing, but we should be at these numbers by this time next year. And that already is essentially what our equity multiple was projected for the entire 10 years. So the reason we were able to get that faster is we have acquired these other properties that have the intrinsic value, and we didn't need extra equity to be able to do that, which has been pretty fantastic. Also wanted to talk about this. This is sort of our timeline of capital expenses that we have left. So we're here in January, and each of these peaks is us making a capital expense. And these numbers are a little lower than they normally would be because, again, we have Sullivan Bank helping us. So we're only paying 20% of costs to do any of these construction projects. Sullivan Bank is doing the other 80%. Obviously, that's a loan, so we'll be paying that back, but it's fantastic leverage for us to be able to do some of these projects that otherwise would never get done. So the first big bit is acquire Fairfield and Evergreen. So our remaining deposit on that, or down payment on that's about $200,000 between the two after taking out earnest money. And then Suburban Acres construction, we have a lot of work to do, but really, again, our timelines it should be done by mid to late May with all of that. And then we've got a lot of work with Fairfield development. So I don't know that I really explained this when I was talking about Fairfield earlier, but part of the reason we postponed it was not only to give us time to get the zoning and the permits in place, but also we have our construction crews focused on Suburban Acres right now. So they can't really even start on Fairfield until probably April. And so by postponing the closing, it just helps us time the full construction a little bit better. And then these smaller capital expenses going forward are really mostly aligned with lot preparations and home rehabs. So what I mean by lot preparations is when we bring in brand new homes, there's codes in both the state and the country that require us to have certain construction in the lot. So many of them require concrete piers that can be relatively costly just to make sure that the home doesn't sink and the home's got a stable foundation. So we have to budget for some of that. So we made the call to postpone distributions to the fall because that's after we're done with all of this work that we're currently working on. We didn't think it was prudent to be paying out distributions while we're also investing heavily into capital expenses. Something else we mentioned in our last newsletter is that there's a possibility to invest more into this portfolio. I will say we're hoping to avoid that just simply because if we can do this with our existing equity, it'll continue to increase our returns for those that are already in the deal. But if certainly when we first ran our numbers for projections, we were raising more than we did. So like I said before, we closed this portfolio at $1.2 million in equity. Our initial projections were more like 1.4, 1.5 that we had expected. So we could actually raise more on the initial acquisitions without impacting returns. But now that we have more acquisitions, it'll even make the returns even better because of that leverage that I mentioned before. So we have decided to hold off on opening for more investment for now at least, and make that decision mid-summer once we've finished more of the capital projects and have a little bit better idea of what our capital outlay will look like. So if you are interested in investing more, still let me know. I've gotten emails from a couple of people that want to invest more, and we'll keep you on the short list if that opportunity comes up. So being a big Apple fan, we always like to hear one more thing, because if you ever watch an Apple announcement, when they say one more thing, that's the big thing that's coming. So we do have one more thing we wanted to share. Earlier this week, we had our offer accepted to buy another portfolio in Springfield, Missouri. So it currently has 461 lots. What we love about this, especially after you saw all the work we've done on the other portfolio, it's already 90% occupied, which is pretty amazing. And there's the ability to add 113 lots in Lebanon. So I should probably describe real quick. So there's 6 communities here, 460 lots total. 4 of the communities are actually in Springfield and 2 more are up in Lebanon. And then if you remember, Forsyth is where Rolling Meadows is. So all of those parks in the same area. Now, this portfolio will be a completely different portfolio. So if you're interested in investing, it will be a completely different raise. And we'll send out investment information on that. But we decided to share this with our Missouri investors first because eventually, when we sell this, we would like to sell our Missouri portfolio 1 and 2 at the same time, because that would just further compress capitalization rates. This was a fairly competitive offering. It was actually off market. We were offered this because we have properties in the area, and the initial asking price was around a 3 to 4% capitalization rate. We ended up tying it up for about a 5% capitalization rate. So that gives you an idea that as you have additional lots, the capitalization rate comes down. And again, the equity numbers I was showing you before that we calculated were all based on 6% capitalization rates. So if we can compress that cap rate down to 5 even, that number just goes up. So we think this is a strategic play for our first portfolio that you're all members of, but also a strategic play for us because this is a really great asset with a lot of upside. So again, what we like about this, it's already stabilized with 90% occupied. We can add another at least 130 lots. We actually have already had our general contractor on site. We have 2 civil engineering firms we've been working with in the area that are already giving us bids. So before we're even closing on this deal, we will have formal bids on all of the work we need to get this construction done, which is just fantastic. So we'll get this work done much faster than we would have otherwise. And that's all because we're already in this market. If it was a new market, we wouldn't have had all those established connections. So this just another one of the million reasons we like this. The other part of that is the city of Lebanon has a shortage of housing. And so they have actually provided a formal letter from the city that they will subsidize the construction up to 50% of the cost. So this deal makes sense without that subsidy, but that subsidy just makes it even better. So I don't like to give a range on IRR estimates. I usually like to say exactly what it is. Matt and I are still relatively early into this underwriting. We want to make sure we really tie up all of our assumptions, make sure the expenses are correct, our capital budget's correct. But right now we're forecasting a 20 to 22% IRR, and that's with a large reserve. We're planning to bring in about $500,000 in reserves, over $2 million in capital expense budget. So heavily capitalized and still getting a 20 to 22% IRR. And the other thing that I love about this, we've never done this with any other offering. We're paying 8% preferred return the first month. So within 30 days of closing, we'll pay our first return. So anyway, we're really excited about this. We will share more information, but wanted to just kind of give this teaser to everyone here. So we have a question actually about this. What's the debt assumption on the new deal rate and loan to cost? So we're working with a lender that does what's called bridge to agency. And so what that means is agency debt is sort of the gold standard in the industry. If you've got a really nice park with high occupancy, enough lots too, there's a fair amount of requirements, you can get agency debt, which is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that are actually financially backed by or guaranteed by the federal government. So those are the lowest rates you can get. We could go straight to agency with this portfolio, but the problem is we wouldn't be able to do the development because agency doesn't really support that. So we're doing a hybrid where we get what's referred to as a bridge loan that is much more aggressive on the debt side for 3 to 5 years while we add these lots, fill them in, and then we can refinance into an agency loan. But the lender just transitions us over to that. So right now, the quote we've been receiving is 80% loan to cost with a 3.75% interest rate, and it'd be interest only for the whole period. And that's actually our last slide. So if anybody else has any questions, please drop them into the Q&A section so we can answer them for you. Maybe while we're waiting, Ryan, Matt, you guys have any other things you wanted to touch on that maybe I missed?
Right, you hit all the points, especially on Springfield portfolio too.
Yep.
We have this last slide that's just, major thank you for all of you. And obviously, if I see questions in here, I'll pause and wait for those. But we have been so grateful for the investors that we work with. Like honestly, we love doing what we're doing, and we couldn't do any of it without you. So we're all investors too. We all invest in these deals and have our money right by you. And so we're excited for the distributions to happen too, because that means we get paid too. So just appreciate everything. And I love getting emails and questions from you all. So please keep that coming. And if you have any other ideas, we love it. So I'm
Yeah,
not seeing any
Brett,
questions. Go ahead, Matt.
yeah, I was going to say, I want to echo that. Like, if anyone ever has any questions, they can feel free to reach out to any of us, and we're more than willing to let them know what's going on. This doesn't have to be a, once a quarter kind of communication. Anytime anyone has any questions, they can feel free to reach out.
For sure. Okay, not seeing any other questions. I'll go ahead and wrap this. We will stay on in case anybody else had questions that come up. And then, as we said at the beginning, we'll send out the recording by tomorrow so you can watch this and hopefully not fall asleep to it again. But appreciate everybody's time, and I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on location. So thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
There, you stop in video, Brett.
Yeah, I'll stop here.